You are listening to Right Off the Bus.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 15 of Right Off the Bus. I'm Chandler Hutchison. That's Pat Mahoney, if I'm pointing the right way, if you're watching this on YouTube or checking it out somewhere else. But we got episode 15 coming to you guys. There's a lot going on, as always. Pat, we got the NCAA National Championship games. We got baseball opening weekend. It's back. We got some UFC news we need to dive into. But first, Pat, happy Easter, man. Happy Easter. I hope you had a nice restful Sunday. I hope you got a lot of food, maybe a little bit of candy, had a couple beers. What do you have going on?
Yeah, happy Easter to you, Chandler. Happy Easter to everyone who celebrates it, that listens. I went to my girlfriend's grandparents for the Sunday, and it was a good time. And the best part about going there, well, it's always a good time anyways, just talking with everyone, drinking beers, whatever. I didn't have any IPAs, but the best part is I always get leftovers when I go there to my girlfriend's Nana's house, and they're straight from England, but they moved here 40 years ago. But they're you always think of English food not being great. She cooks normal food, but she's best cook from England I've ever met. Not that I've met any people straight from England other than her and her grandparents and that side of the family. But I'm surrounded by the accents, the thick accents. I love them. I fall in love with them. The English family. The leftovers are great. I was enjoying them yesterday. Probably have a little more today. Then I'll be out. But yeah, it was a good time. And I always love Easter. I celebrate it with them now as opposed to my family, because my family's kind of spread around. My brothers are all over the place throughout New England. My mom's up in New York. So it's a little different than it used to be when I was a kid, but traditions change and it's just how it goes. But I'll see them for other holidays and see them for other visits. But what were you up to, Chandler?
Before that, Pat, I got two questions, man. Do I remember in college you used to come back with just massive things of Tupperware from them? Is that
so you
okay?
Remember.
That's where the leftovers are coming from.
Yeah.
Now when you started saying it, some gears
Yeah.
started turning. I was like, this dude used to come home with 4 things of Tupperware, man, and that
if you see me
eats for
coming
the
back
week.
with just bags of food, you know where I was. You know exactly where I was coming from.
And then, Pat, my second question, man, you're a City fan, Man City. Is there any soccer affiliation with their family being from England?
Well, yeah, so that's funny because every time I'm over there, I have a quick conversation with her granddad because he's a huge Tottenham fan. And he's like, I always try to hype him up. I'm like, oh, they're right on the break, I'm like, what place are they in? He's like 5th. And I'm like, oh, they're right there then. They might make the Champions League. He's like, Tottenham suck. It's so funny. And I was like, yeah, the Harry Kane's at 19 goals now. He's like, yeah, that's all we got. He's like, we wasted all that money on Gareth Bale. Oh, he hates it. It's funny because he gets fired up. But I try to hype him up, but I don't think I've ever told him I'm a City fan because I think he'll just be he'll think I'm a bandwagoner, which to some degree I am, but I was a fan, at the beginning of the bandwagon.
12 years, Pat. You've been a fan, it's however long
exactly.
it's been.
It was 2011 when we got David Silva and Yaya Torre. So I'm not a total bandwagoner. It's not I became a fan in 2016, but no, yeah, it's good though. He's a big Tottenham fan, so I have to root for Tottenham just for that.
That's tough, man, especially you're trying to be positive about it. And he's like, oh, they suck. They're in 5th. I'm like, you're in Europe. You're fighting for Europa. You're fighting for Champions League.
He cracks me up, though. It's so funny because, he thinks with the people they have, they should be going for the title, which they realistically should be. But he's so I can't get him started about Gareth Bale. He's so mad. I'm sure he used to love him back in the day.
Right.
Then once he went to Real Madrid and then he went back to Tottenham. He's like, he is so lazy. It's just, it's I don't know. It's a great.
He should just be mad at Jose Mourinho, man. He should just be mad at Jose.
It's I don't know. I don't know what the problem is. I doubt it's I don't know.
I don't think either of us have watched enough Tottenham, Pat. I don't know.
Exactly. I can't even speak on it. But anyways, what did you do for Easter?
I had 2 of my brothers here with their girlfriends. Mine couldn't make it. She was working. I got a brother and his girlfriend are in Colombia. So we had 7 of us, it was very nice, had Easter dinner. And I got my dog Maya at home, who's 7, broken back. She didn't move too well, but we had 2 puppies over, man. We had my brother's dog, Charlie. I gotta say this too, man. I love my brother and his girlfriend, but they are such nerds, bro. They're both bio teachers. They are both science nerds. They named this dog Charlotte Darwin. That Darwin's its middle name.
Oh wow.
They're calling it Charlie. They named it after Charles Darwin, man. Like, you let 2 nerds meet each other freshman year at college, and this is what's gonna happen. They get a dog named after Charles Darwin. Like, that is just that is wild to me. But then my other brother, his girlfriend brought her dog Nova over, so we had a couple puppies running them, man. We were eating, drinking, so no complaints, man. It was a good, happy Easter. All was well. All was well over here, Pat. The only other thing I'll dive into real quick before we get going is I just want to touch on some of my running challenges, Pat. You know, I like to keep you and the listeners updated on what I'm going on, and I'm trying to get more comfortable telling people about it and posting about it, and be more comfortable sharing it. But my goal for March was 100 miles, man, and that was a grind. I hadn't done 100 miles in a month since last summer, and I ran all 31 days of March. We did over 100 miles. It was like 100.15 because I was just trying to inch over that line and not have to do any more than I had to do. But it was a good month, man. You know, I got some great weeks, dude. I've been running like 120 something days in a row outside now. So I've been grinding, man. But we
Yeah,
got some
that's
cool
crazy.
we got some cool running challenges coming up, Pat. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe a listener out there will come run with me on one of these. But
And
April
did
11th.
you
Go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say, did you join Joe Gizzy for any more runs? And are you taking any challenges from his book?
So I didn't join him on any runs after that 4x4x48, but he's gonna come do some of my runs with me in April. Now, I've never done an all day endurance challenge, and like that's something I'm interested in doing. So I'm gonna do a half marathon split up over a whole day. I'm gonna do 13 individual miles, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. At the top of every hour. I'm gonna run 1 mile. So I'm inviting anyone who's around Eastern Mass, anyone to come run with me any of those miles. Sunday, April 25th, hit me up, man, because we're going to do 13 separate miles. I don't know how my body's going to hold up, man. I haven't done over 5 miles yet this year. So I don't know.
My legs would start breaking down if I tried running at that pace. That would be ridiculous. So the top of every hour, you're gonna try
Wow.
running. Well, not try. You are going to do it. I know you follow through, but you're
But
gonna do a mile.
yeah, 1 mile. You know,
It's
it's
not
less
bad.
than
No.
less than 9-10 minutes every hour for 13 straight hours. And then the last one's going to be a little bit longer. I'm gonna have someone toss me a beer or shotgun after I finish the last one because I got to celebrate Joe Gizzy style. That's how he did it after his marathon. And then Pat, the other running challenge I'm gonna do this month, man. This one's gonna kill me next week. I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna do 7 miles on Sunday, 6 on Monday, 5 on Tuesday, 4 on Wednesday, then back up 5, 6, 7 to end the week. So it ends up being, I think, 40 miles, 41 miles. I don't know. I haven't done the math out, but it's a lot of running, man. And a kid I haven't
Yeah.
talked to, shout out Troy Kent. I haven't talked to this kid since high school. We were friendly. We weren't even friends. He hit me up and said, I'm coming to run one of the 7 miles with you. I'm like, let's get it, Troy. And this dude's a cross country runner. This dude could blow the wheels off me in any distance. I was like, you got to slow down for me, bro. Like, yeah, I can't run like you, but he's going to come do that first 7 mile run with me, man. So I'm excited. So, hey, if anyone wants to come run April 25th all day, April 11th to 17th, you know, we got some long runs coming, Pat. So we're going to see how it goes. I'll keep the listeners updated, but I'm
Well,
excited to
I'll be there
share
in
those, man.
spirit. I'll be there in spirit rooting you on. So
You're
you'll know
you're
I'll
gonna
be I'll be there in your head.
you're gonna be there, shotgun and a beer in Chicopee for me
Yeah,
while I'm in
I'll
Easton
meet you there.
running.
I'll meet you at the finish line.
But man, I'm excited to push myself. You know, I've never done an all day challenge. I've hiked 10 miles. I've ran a half marathon. You know, I've done some things that take a while, but never done anything that takes 13 hours. That's a physical challenge. So I'm excited to see how it goes. I'm excited to see how my body breaks down and see if I can push myself a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good step. You love getting excited for those things, breaking yourself down, challenging yourself. So
Yeah,
I'll tune in. I'll tune in next week. I'll hear what your update is. We'll have to save that for me.
we're too comfortable, Pat. We're too comfortable with what we do every day, man. Got to get out of the AC and the heat sometimes, man. Gotta get out. Got to get out and push ourselves a little bit. But Pat,
Yeah, it's fair.
enough about me. Like I said, I don't really like talking about myself all that much, but I'm trying to get better at it with all that, physical challenge stuff. But Pat, we're gonna dive into some headlines, man. And I know there's some pretty good ones that you want to start off with, man. And I will say, I was duped by one of these, so that's for sure. So if you want to dive into some of these April Fool's headlines, man.
Yeah, well, so we had April Fool's Day, and although we are past that at this point now, it's always a great day in sports, and we just missed it last week, so I did want to cover it this week. But it's always a great day in sports. Like I love the Sports Center posts of just all the best pranks that they've done over the years. There's been a number of great ones. You see like Peyton Manning unscrewing the water bottle top, giving it to his teammate, then he like tells the camera to look over there. The guy just dumps water all over himself. So it shows you like they're not just athletes, they're people too. So I always love to see it. But anyways, some of the best April Fool's headlines that I saw. I could be missing some. You can post at me if you want, if I do miss any. But Brady bringing back the Montreal Expos. That was the first one I saw. So that was actually a team that drafted him. But he posted that he was going to be bringing them back in 2022. I don't know if he was going to be like part owner or what the deal was. He was just helping to bring him back. And I don't really know how that would work with the league because what are there 30 teams in the MLB? So there would be just a 30,
yeah.
an odd number, 31. So first of all, I feel like if you bring back one, you got to bring back two because that just wouldn't work for well, I almost just said the East and the West, the National League and the American League. But that was a good one. Internet site said he missed the mark, but I thought it was pretty funny. There was like one they compared it to with another one. Bill Russell said he was making a comeback, and I thought that was pretty funny. Bill Russell.
I'm not sure as many people really believed that one compared to some of the other ones.
Oh yeah, it wasn't believable. Like it was just funny, but people actually believed Brady. Like I know Ariel Helwani was an Expos fan, and I know a lot of those Expos fans just became like Blue Jays fans by default. So they're probably kind of upset, but yeah, I don't know. I thought it was funny. But then another good one with the NFL, George Kittle, and he actually, he posted himself in a Jaguars jersey, and then that he was going down to Jacksonville. He said, "Oh, thanks, for all the love and support over the years to the Niners fans." And then he had like the Jaguars hashtag, and he was all hyped up. And I think some people probably thought that was legit. I know you had seen it, but
I saw that one and I was like, this is too much, George, man. Like you said, he posted like a super clean jersey swap of him, like with the sweaty hair
clean.
flipping, like with his number. And he's like, yeah, thanks, San Fran, hashtag Duval. Like that's Jacksonville's thing, like Duval. And he's posting it, and I was like, no. And then, of course, I'm like, oh, it's April Fool's Day. This can't be real. Because if it doesn't come from Schefter, even if it's from the player, if it's not from Shefty, I don't buy it.
If no big news outlets are picking it up. And that's why I hate April Fool's Day, because it's like there's some things that are true, like peppered in there, but most of it is just fake. And like I'm not ready for that in my mindset. Like I wake up in the morning and I'm looking at my phone and I see George Kittle in a Jaguars jersey. I just assume it's real. I'm like, oh my God, like the Jaguars are making moves. Like they're going to draft Trevor Lawrence. They're getting George Kittle. I was like, this is crazy. No, nothing of the sort.
And the thing with that too, Pat, is not to get like too technical and too scientific, but when you wake up in the morning, you shouldn't check your phone. We all do it, right? But when you wake up, you are super relaxed. You are mellow. You are in a very calm and impressionable mind state just from everything going on while you sleep and regenerating and rejuvenating. But then you wake up and you see something like that, and it's like, whoa, it's like, it just hits you like crazy, man. And that's why they say you shouldn't be on your phone right when you wake up. I do it every morning. I get up, check Twitter, check Instagram, whatever. But that's why it gets you first in the morning. You see Kittle and your brain's more impressionable than it's going to be for the next 14 hours. And it's like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah. And I was going to say, did you wake up in the morning and see this next one? So the John Jones and Dana White joking on Twitter that they got a fight deal done. They had dinner. And if you look, John Jones tweeted this at like 11 p.m., which our time, that's Eastern time. So it was like 11 Eastern time, I believe. And they got a fight deal done. In reality, they're not even close. But it was convincing in Chandler's defense because Dana White responded to Jones, which you wouldn't expect because they don't like each other. And Dana was like, oh, amazing night, brother. Like that they actually had dinner and got like a good deal and good conversation done. Nope, not even close. So Chandler tweeted out from our podcast account. He's like, LFG, like, let's go. Like, he's all excited. And I texted this man and I was like, Chandler, I was like, no, I was like, it was an April Fool's joke. Because you look at John Jones' feed and he's like, after the fact, he's like, oh, it's still 11:42 here in Albuquerque. So April Fool's, I'm sure he got most of the population. Because even like days later, I've been checking just through the comment sections out of curiosity. And people are like, oh, like, let's go. That's awesome. Like, this is crazy. No, in reality, I looked at Ariel Helwani's Twitter, who I follow. He's like the best MMA journalist in the world, maybe besides our boy John Morgan.
Shout
But
out
the
John.
UFC is looking at Ngannou versus Derek Lewis. So Chandler was fooled. I'm not even gonna lie. I was fooled for a minute, but before making any rash decisions, like tweeting out, I did a little research. I dug a little deeper, and it just was not close. So
Pat's not as quick to the quote tweet Twitter fingers, man. I'm
a skeptic.
little,
That's that's what I am. I'm a skeptic.
Pat's a bit more of a more thorough journalist. Yeah, I mean, Pat, I'm just gonna say in my defense, like you said, in Albuquerque it was like 11:40. That's 3 hours different from us, right? So when I wake up on April 2nd, I see John Jones tweeting that on April 2nd, because that's what it is my time, and that's what it says for my time. And that's what got me. I shouldn't have believed it. I should have known that it wasn't real, because Dana White was literally trash talking him 2 days earlier. But the fact Dana White responded, man, that is what got me. Like, I was like, oh, John Jones is being funny. But then Dana White being like, amazing night, brother. I was like, let's go. The super fight, the best heavyweight fight ever. Oh,
yeah, could have been. Now they're, now in reality, they're not even close to getting it done. So great news. But
Ngannou's going to pick Lewis apart if that's a fight again.
Yeah,
like,
it won't go anything like the first fight. But
yeah,
a couple other little April Fool's headlines. Michael Strahan, for some reason, thought it'd be funny just to tell people he was filling his gap tooth, which, like, I like the gap tooth, honestly. Like, it's a personality trait. I think on some people, like, it looks pretty good. I actually don't mind the gap tooth. I would have been disappointed if he did fill it. So I was happy to find that was not a reality. And I did see, actually, dentist business was boosted after this. I forget which one, but there was like a specific dentist, like their business was like boosted after the whole Michael Strahan thing. So,
well, Strahan is the gap tooth icon. Like,
yeah,
if there's a famous person with it, that's who it is. Like, whenever we see him on TV, my dad has a little gap in his front teeth, and he's always like, that's my guy, like, we represent, like, blah blah, me, him, and SpongeBob, we got the gap teeth, and that's what he rocks with. But that was funny, because it is iconic for Strahan, man. That's what you think of.
Yeah, and if anyone's out there and you're insecure about your gap tooth, like, you can look to guys like Michael Strahan. You're like, oh, this is okay. Like, this is cool. And another guy, Chappelle Lacey, is a comedian and a podcaster that I listen to as well. And he's got a gap tooth. And I was like, these guys should never fill that. I was like, it's cool, honestly. Like, some people it doesn't work, but I would never want you to feel insecure about it. I think it's a cool thing to have, honestly. It's unique.
Shout out to all the people with a gap in the front teeth, man. You can set the record for sacks in a season for an NFL player, and you can host Good Morning America. So shout out to all the gap tooth people, man, on the way up.
Yep. And speaking of hosting, we'll move on to some regular headlines as well, Chandler. So Aaron Rodgers hosting Jeopardy for 2 weeks. He actually just started, I believe, last night. I believe the premiere was, or it could be tonight, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember.
I think it was
saw a clip.
It was last night.
Yeah, so it did premiere last night. And from what I saw like a 5-minute clip. He actually did a really good job. It seemed like he kind of was natural in it. I know he said he was preparing hard for it. Some people were joking like he prepared harder for that than actually his games. And they were like, oh, Brady owns you, like all this, just how Twitter gets. But it was cool to see. I mean, so he won Celebrity Jeopardy back in the day. And then, he was a good host. I don't know. He was a good host. I had nothing else to say about that.
Yeah, I thought he was too. Like with you, I just saw some little clips, and Rogers is a Jeopardy nerd. Like, he watches it all the time.
He seemed like it.
He just got engaged, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to pretend to know her name, but I saw
Shailene Woodley. I
Shailene
got
Woodley,
you.
there you go. But I saw a clip with her when they got engaged, and she was like, yeah, I didn't really know who he was, like in terms of football. Like I just kind of met this like quirky guy that really likes Jeopardy and wanted to be Alex Trebek, you know, blah, blah. So he's super into Jeopardy. But Pat, if you hadn't seen this clip yet, there was a guy that wrote in an answer and he said, what is, should you have kicked a field goal? Or something
Mhm.
like you know, along the lines of why did they kick the field goal in that championship game rather than let Aaron Rodgers go for the touchdown? You know, that Matt LaFleur play that everyone talked about for weeks. How do you not trust Aaron Rodgers? And the contestant wrote in what is should have kicked the field goal. And Rodgers just kind of looks down, laughs, and he goes, that is a good question, but unfortunately the incorrect answer. You
Yeah,
know,
and I
so
didn't know what the final Jeopardy question was, but I did see that answer, and honestly, I was like, "What is he talking about?" I couldn't remember what he was talking about, but you just refreshed my memory, so thank you.
but it's funny that Rogers openly on Jeopardy said that's a great question, being like, yes, why did my coach kick that field goal? Why did he not trust me to go win the
Mhm.
game? And I loved that from Rogers being like, yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I should have been trusted to take it in my own hands. But hey, shout out Aaron Rodgers, man. 2 weeks of hosting Jeopardy, and I think it's gonna be fun. And it's kind of a nice new side to see of Aaron Rodgers, you know.
Yeah, it was cool. Again, like not just as an athlete, it was cool to see him like in another round because you don't see like
Mhm.
athletes doing that much. I mean, you see them broadcasting and being an analyst on whatever, just any pregame show or postgame show, or even Tony Romo doing the commentary.
Mhm.
But besides that, you don't see him anywhere else. So it was cool to see someone like him, and he was actually really smart. So I could see that he was a Jeopardy nerd.
Yeah, and man, that's the same reason why I told you that Mike Vrabel helped me fall in love with sports, man. Seeing like if you hadn't listened to that episode, it was a great question about why we fell in love with sports, the athletes that made it. Mike Vrabel was my neighbor down the street, man. And just seeing an athlete outside of the arena, seeing a guy just be so nice and so genuine, even though he's 6'4", 260 and a beast on the field. Seeing people
Mhm.
outside their element, man, you see them as human. And it's a really cool way to see athletes for sure.
Yeah, that actually takes me back to a funny story. It's like the same thing with our teachers. So if you know your high school teacher or whatever else, well, one of my old English teachers, Mr. Grant. So he, I remember him telling the story about like the time one of his students saw him at a Bruins game and like he had a beer in his hand because obviously he's at a Bruins game and he's relaxing, he's having a beer, and his student just like was in awe, like couldn't believe it. Like first that he was seeing his teacher outside of the classroom, and like second that he was a normal person, and three drinking a beer. He was just like, oh my god. So it's funny. It's kind of the same thing. Like you see someone out of their element outside of a classroom, outside of a field. You don't expect it.
I remember seeing my like sixth grade teacher at like a restaurant that my family went to or something, and I was like, you're allowed out of the school. You do things outside of the classroom. Like what? What? That's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's weird to think about.
What's this next one we got going on, Pat? Opening week for the or you know, I guess it is opening weekend. Opening day is what we normally call it for the MLB. But Pat, our Red Sox, man, not the hottest start that we were looking for. We unfortunately got swept by the Orioles, man. All three games, very, very tough to watch. I watched a couple innings here and there. And luckily I got to watch an inning and a half or so yesterday when the Sox won their first game, 11-2 over the Rays. The bats were going, man. Very good news. But Pat, worst start in Red Sox history. Worst home start ever. 0-3, getting swept.
Yeah.
Not to mention by the Orioles, who have been one of the worst teams in the league the past couple of years.
Hmm.
Luckily, the Orioles are facing the Yankees 3 or 4 games in a row now, so hopefully that gets evened out a little bit.
Yeah, the Yankees didn't even have a great start either, but at this point I'm kind of hoping the Orioles beat them too, just because if anyone's a Yankees fans, my brothers are. But anyways, me and Chandler are Red Sox fans, so we're gonna root for the Red Sox. Try to keep it unbiased, but we got to talk about them. But yeah, we got swept 3-0 by the Orioles, which if in the past like decade is just terrible because the Orioles have probably had like 3 winning seasons in the last 10 years. They're not a team that's good in the East, or
AL
I don't
East,
know.
yep.
Yeah, AL
AL
East.
East.
This is terrible. I'm like just blanking on all the conference names no matter what sport it is. I don't know why, but I gotta say probably the worst sign I saw of the entire series with the Orioles was our pickup Garrett Richards. So we went out and picked up a pitcher, which we needed. We desperately needed. We need the starting pitching terribly. Honestly, bullpen too. It's all just kind of in shambles. I don't think we're going to be looking to win anything this year. I think most Sox fans would agree. So Garrett Richards got shelled in his debut. 2 innings pitched, blew 7 hits, 6 earned runs. He did get a couple strikeouts, but yeah, 6 earned and then a couple walks as well. It was not good to see. And it's someone's debut with a new team. It's tough to get acclimated, but I would just love to have seen something better out of him. Maybe not even just like a better performance, but if he could have gone farther into the game, like if he went 5 innings, at least if he gave up, 6 earned over 5 innings, that's a little more respectable. It's still not good, but at least at that point, like our offense has a chance to come back. But 2 innings pitched, 6 earned, that was probably the worst sign that I saw. So when you want your team to get better pitching, and then any new pitcher we pick up just gets shelled, it's like, oh, it's so frustrating.
It absolutely is, without a doubt. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but 2 innings, 6 earned runs. His pitch count was probably up near 70, for 2 innings, and simply unsustainable for a starting pitcher. Our bullpen's going to be busy this year, Pat. I think we're going to see
Yeah, with a
lot of
bullpen that
bullpen
needs work
rotation.
too. It's like I don't want to rely on our bullpen whatsoever because that's
But we
just
can't
not going
rely
to
on
go
our
well.
starters.
Yeah, it's not going. We can't rely on anyone. It's always been our offense that's dominating, for the last few years. But I don't. Ever since we lost Mookie, and it's sad, man. Then
Yeah,
you
we're
got
just
Rafael Devers making errors. It's like, oh, I love the Sox, but I don't know what we're gonna be looking at this year.
we just need to hope for big years from JD, from Xander, from Devers, from Verdugo. We gotta lean in and root for these guys. But Pat, if there's anything that makes a baseball fan happy right now, and I think I can broadly say baseball fan, other than if you're in the great state of Texas and in the city of Houston, is watching the Astros just continue to get bullied all around the league, man. I'm loving it. I love just the shame tour that they've been on the past 2 years. We have people blowing up inflatable trash cans and throwing them onto the field. For anyone that doesn't know, Astros cheated, won a World Series, banging on trash cans to call out pitches, stealing signs, whatever. They're throwing trash cans on the field. Who are they playing? Was it the A's or the Royals?
Yeah, they swept the A's, and now they're playing the Angels.
But the A's like PA team and everything, dude, that they're announcing the Astros, and they start playing Before He Cheats by Carrie Underwood.
The
Just
trolling is unreal. Like this is what we need
peak.
in baseball. It's like we need this type of content. Baseball needs this. And I saw a picture this morning, Chandler, when I woke up, of a Angels fan literally with a broken arm. He had a cast on, and he was right at the outfield fence with a full-size trash can like attached to his front, and he had whatever drumsticks or something, and he's literally banging the trash can with a broken arm. I was like, that's dedication to trolling, and I love to see it. It was
I
so
gotta
good.
watch that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'll send you it when we're done recording. It was so funny. Oh, it's awesome.
Pat, I'm telling you, this is why we need a Jamie like Joe Rogan has, dude, because we just
Jamie,
need
pull that up.
we just need someone to pull it up so we can
Yeah,
watch it, man. I'm telling
we need a
you.
producer so we can pull up clips, everything. It's so funny.
Jamie, pull up the centipede climbing through the rat's skull. Yeah, no, yeah, of course. You want to watch a pose? Yeah, whatever. But dude, I gotta watch that because that sounds hilarious. But
Yeah, I'll
dude,
send you it.
the Astros basically faced no reprimands for cheating, for winning the World Series. Rob Manfred, the commissioner of the MLB, said it's just a hunk of metal. It's not that deep. Bro, this is the World Series. Like, Nick Castellanos just got suspended more games than the Astros did for cheating and winning the World Series, which we'll talk about later. But man, I love seeing the Astros get bullied. They're playing well. They got a bunch of great players, obviously, but I'm kind of glad
Yeah.
to see the trolling continue.
And Rob Manfred's one of the worst commissioners in the game, so it's a whole thing.
We'll add him to my fire Goodell list. We'll just start all the commissioners that should
Fire
lose their
Manfred.
jobs. All right, Pat. Let's move on a little bit, man. We got some UFC news too. McGregor Poirier 3. That trilogy is going to be completed. UFC 264, man, in July. This is kind of the fight that we all thought was coming, right? Both of them
Hmm.
wanted it. The UFC wanted it. It's a good money maker. They've each won one. Poirier was dominant in the last match. McGregor's ego was hurt a tiny bit, even though he was being classy after the fights. What do you think about this matchup that the UFC just announced?
Yeah, what was interesting was that Poirier turned down the title fight. So he was like, oh, I'm not going to fight for the title. I would rather do the trilogy with McGregor, wrap up that chapter of his career. And I don't blame him because it's the money fight. I mean, even though
Right.
McGregor's kind of slipped and he's past his fighting prime, really, I mean, he's really not past his fighting prime. It's just because he hasn't been active. That's what he said. You can't get away with being inactive in this fight game. And it's true because you look rusty. You can't make adjustments as quickly. Poirier ate him alive with the leg kick last time. But if you know anything about McGregor, he can make adjustments. I think he's gonna come out, and he actually did tweet out that so what he did for his UFC debut was that he moved to like a sister's apartment, and he literally just for 8 weeks straight slept there, went to the gym, trained, went back, slept, repeat, just every day. And he said he's gonna take the same approach this time. And I think he knows that like if he doesn't
Hmm.
win this fight, it's probably over. I don't see how you can get the hype back and how you can come back from losing this fight if he were to lose two in a row to Poirier. I don't know what's left for him. Who else? Like maybe the Diaz trilogy, but at that point,
It's
like
yeah.
if you know, so I'll just mention this now. Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz gets announced as the co-main at UFC 262, I believe, for the where the lightweight belt is going to be fought for. So if Nate Diaz loses that fight, McGregor loses this fight, like, I just don't see the allure to that fight anymore as much. It's still the Diaz McGregor trilogy. It's a big fight, but it's not anywhere as big as it could be. And I would watch it just because I love the UFC. But for the general public, I just don't see where the popularity would be. So the trilogy was what we expected, but it's do or die for McGregor this time around, at least in my opinion.
I think that's really well said. And right when you said, I don't know where he goes after this, my only thought was a cash grab fight with Diaz. But the
Hmm.
problem is, like you said, we wanted the Diaz McGregor trilogy 4 years ago. We don't want it right now.
Yeah.
Diaz is a shell of what he used to be. McGregor, same thing. If McGregor doesn't win this fight, it's cash grab fights, it's boxing boxers, it's fighting Jake Paul and Logan Paul. Like
Yeah.
that's where
It's a
he's
good
going to
point.
go because he's not going to have a legitimate title shot in the UFC again. And he
Hmm.
doesn't right now. But yeah, I don't know what's next for McGregor. Same with Diaz. Leon Edwards is going to pick Diaz apart. I thought this
I
was
think
a
so. I think so
weird
too.
I thought this was a weird matchup. It's a 5-round co-main and the fact that it's Leon Edwards, man, I'm like there's 10 guys in that division better than Nate Diaz that Leon Edwards should be fighting. You look at Kobe Covington, dude. You can go down the list in that division and go through the top 10, man. Like all those fights are better. I think that Leon Edwards is absolutely going to pick him apart, and then Leon Edwards is going to be ripe for a title fight, man. He absolutely is. Usman, I don't know. I don't know what the division's looking like. Well, I do. I've talked about it, but I think that's the fight. I think it's Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. I think that's what it has to be.
I
But
would agree with you. Yeah, if Usman beats Masvidal, UFC 261 next month, and if Edwards beat Diaz, that's the only one that makes sense for me. I want to see that as opposed to a Colby Covington rematch with
mm,
Usman. Even though that was a good fight, I like just seeing the new blood as opposed to the rematches. It's like I've seen that before, and unless a fighter's made crazy differences and they've come back and fight, like all Colby's done is beat Tyron Woodley, who's pretty much losing to everyone at this point. So for Colby Covington to want a title shot right away, I don't see that as a viable option. And I agree with you. Yeah, Leon Edwards. I think 5 rounds will benefit him. I think he'll pick Diaz apart. His
mm,
cardio is off the charts. And I would see, yeah, Edwards versus Usman. Because I also, as much as I want Masvidal to win, I don't see it happening against
yeah,
Usman.
he's not gonna. He's not gonna. Usman all the way there, man. And Pat, you put down here too. 261 and 262 sold out full capacity crowds in Jacksonville and in Houston, man. That's pretty crazy. But
Yeah, pretty
Dana
much in like
White,
10 minutes
bring it
each.
in.
Pretty much
Yeah.
sold out in like 10 minutes each. And that was the biggest part of their revenue. Well, not the biggest part. Their contract with ESPN, they get a ton of money. But for like the live gate that they receive for every ticket that's bought, all the beer sales, everything like that, like it's a ton of money. And that was
Mm,
kind of hindering maybe like why they were so hesitant to pay fighters more. So maybe it'll benefit the fighters too to have a live gate because it's just so much revenue that they were missing out on. And now you get these big fights with actually a crowd. Like you're going to have a crowd for the McGregor fight at UFC 264, I'm sure. 261 in Jacksonville, Usman Masvidal. Then 262, the lightweight belt, which is a stacked card too. You got Edwards and Diaz. It's like there needs to be crowds for that, and I'm happy to see it coming back. We got people getting vaccinated. It's like it's time to get back to normal life. I'm happy to see it. And if you're willing to risk it and go, like, I think that should be up to the individual person.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you there. Pat, we don't get political on this podcast, and I don't think we
No,
are.
we don't.
I don't. No, I don't, and I don't think we are being political. It's just, hey, if it's open, people are gonna go, right? That's the way it is. And Pat, a couple more, man. Now this one could get a little political, but my man Paul Pierce, the truth. Paul,
Yeah,
when you were
this man.
working for ESPN, you cannot go on Instagram Live, smoke a bunch of weed, hang out with a bunch of strippers, show them shaking their butts. That's so.
This man that lost his mind. It's crazy.
And
He lost his mind momentarily.
ESPN and Paul Pierce have parted ways, as they put out. Yes, Paul got fired. He's already posting videos saying, I'm smiling, like bigger and better things. People are saying he's already going to be at Barstool. He's going to be hired by some other places.
Was like, call me.
Yeah, man.
Immediately.
And they've been doing it. They've been hiring a lot of guys, but people are like, how could he get fired for this? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, yeah, no, if I went on Instagram Live, absolutely faded, drunk, high, and I was posting videos of myself smoking weed, hanging out with strippers, while I have a wife and kids, my employer may fire me. There's a very good chance. So people that are surprised by this, stop being surprised. Paul knew exactly what was going to happen when he woke up the next morning, afternoon, or night. I don't know when he got up.
When he woke up, but you're right.
This was funny to watch. Like, people are commenting saying, this is why Paul Pierce is the truth. This is how he got the name.
Yeah. Because as much as I disagree with it and I thought it was funny, there's a million other people that did not think it was funny and that have kids who are going to see it. And they just one of the biggest athletes and biggest names in the entire sport of basketball and in the sports world has strippers all over his IG Live. It's like, I've never seen Paul Pierce in that light. And I thought he was married. I'm like, where, does he have a wife and kids? Like, what is going on? I don't know, but Paul Pierce lost his mind momentarily. He does. Okay. That's questionable.
And now Paul Pierce's wife is the first Google suggestion. Yeah. Julie Pierce, 3 kids, man. Brianna.
Yeah, she didn't bring that on herself. I hope they had some sort of agreement in place. They're like, yeah, it's okay, Paul.
Right. You hope that he has a hall pass and you hope they're in an open relationship. But Pat, that's not our business. We just want to shout out Paul Pierce. And
yeah, we still love Pierce. We still love the truth. I for one, I thought it was funny to see. It was just bizarre. That was probably the last thing I expected to see on my feed when I woke up in the morning.
And that's why it was so funny. My personal hope is that he gets hired by NBC Boston and he becomes a Celtics announcer, but I don't think that's going to happen. Pat, we got 2 more basketball headlines. We got a lot of headlines. We got a little bit of a different structure of this show, but we got 2 more headlines. Paige Buchers, man, we've talked about her a couple times on the pod, point guard for UConn. First ever freshman to win the NCAA Women's Player of the Year in basketball. That's all it is. I just want to bring it up because people don't know. In women's basketball, you have to play 4 years. You have to be over 21 years old and play 4 years and be 4 years removed from high school to be drafted into the WNBA. So this is a junior and senior league, right? NCAA women's. Those are who dominate. It's Brianna Stewart, it's Tina Charles when they're seniors and juniors dominating. Paige Buchers, freshman, first ever. When you're the first person to ever do something, it's significant. So I just want to say, shout out Paige and take a bow, Paige, because that is historic. That's incredible. Girls 18, 19 years old, dominating 21, 22-year-olds, best player in the country. Incredible.
And it only makes sense that it's a UConn player, right? UConn women has just been the staple of women's basketball in college for years and years now. Obviously the crazy winning streak years back over 100 games. I think that was they had Maya Moore at that point, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So they had the legendary team with Maya Moore. Is crazy. But think about what Paige Buchers is going to be like when she's a senior. It's scary to think about. I can't imagine they don't win a title in the next 3 years. They have to, right? In the next 3 years, with all the recruits that they're going to bring in, you think about all the other freshmen want to go play at UConn. So you think about another Paige Buchers coming in there, like she's there as a junior, and then you got a couple other sophomore and freshmen who are not quite as talented, maybe, but like almost there. That's a scary lineup, and I
Yeah.
think that team dominates either of the two teams that were just played in the championship game.
Hey, I mean, they did lose to Arizona, but I do feel you. I do feel you. But
They did.
I will say real quick, my dad's watching like, I don't know if it was like the All-American, I don't know what it was, all the best high school players, 3-point shootout, this, that, the other thing. And he's watching the two final girls in the, best high school players in the country. They're the two best shooters. They both go into UConn. So the two finalists in the best high school 3-point shooting contest are both going to UConn. And it's like, all right, Paige, you got some shooters now,
They all want, yeah, they all
it's
want to go to
nuts.
UConn. It's like, how can
Don't
these
you want
other
to play
teams
with Paige?
compete? It's always, it's always the Stanfords, it's always the Baylors, it's always Arizona's always decent too. I mean, they were an underdog for sure, but all these like big named schools, that's where they just like in women's college basketball, it's like the top teams just seem to have such an advantage in recruiting. It's crazy. Like it's not like men's college basketball and the trend we're seeing now, like that we've alluded to. Like UNC's not getting the same guys they once were. Even Duke's not. It's like people
Mhm.
are spreading around to, Gonzaga. I mean, Gonzaga is always good too, but Baylor has an amazing class, obviously, with the game they just put on. All these other schools, it's becoming more spread out and like the gap is closing. But I feel
Mhm.
like in women's college basketball, it's like, if anything, it's just widening. Like you see these top teams just getting like the top of the top, just the cream of the crop talent.
Yeah, and it's because they are less major programs and they're, yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. But hey, when UConn's been to 15 straight Elite Eights and however many Final Fours, I think 8 in a row or something, but it is incredible to watch what some of these teams do, especially with the recruiting. And then Pat, our last headline, just the women's championship. We just want to shout out Stanford. They ended up, I mean, phenomenal season. They were a 1 seed in the tournament,
Mm-hmm.
They're a top couple team. They're 31-2. They had an incredible season. They beat the Arizona Wildcats by 1 point. Shout out that Stanford program. Clearly doing some things right, and they'll be right back in it next year. So shout out Stanford for
Definitely.
bringing home the
Stanford,
chip.
again, like they're always one of those top schools that
Hmm.
back when UConn was on their crazy winning streak or even before that. Like Stanford was always one of those Final Four, even, just Elite Eight teams. Like they're always one of the top, you know, top six teams in the country. Like Stanford has such a good program there for women's basketball. It's crazy. They're almost on that UConn level. Like they're right there. And they won this year. It's you can't win every year. And there's always going to be these other top programs like Stanford.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you, Pat. Good time talking about all those headlines, man. Now we got to dive into some football. Continues to dominate some headlines, Pat. We got our good friend Connor Howe coming in to discuss that Sam Darnold trade, which we will dive into when we get Connor on the show. From All the Balls, a great sports podcast, our resident Jets analyst, Connor Howe. But first, Pat, we got to talk about this other potential rule change that you put down here. So if you want to start explaining that a little bit, we can get in.
Yeah, so we mentioned how the 17 game season change got 17 game season now got passed. And along with that was also proposed the NFL international expansion. So along with that extra game, the NFL plans to make 4 teams every year give up a home game to play internationally, which if you're, any football team, you want to play at home, you probably want to minimize travel. So like instead of playing in Baltimore, the Ravens might have to go now in their plans to Germany, which sounds like an absolute logistical nightmare in terms of practice, rest. I mean, it's crazy. Imagine like I'm sure the scheduling will figure it out, but like you go for a Sunday night game in Germany and because the time zone's completely different, and then you
Mm.
come back and you got to play the next Sunday at 1 o'clock here. It's like, and you got to practice, you got to rest. It sounds like a nightmare, but I get it because Goodell, the NFL they want to bring football to other countries. I mean, they've been in London for years now. And I think they've had like up to 4 games a year in London now. They're pretty much up to that point. But now they're gonna play in games in Germany and then South America as well. They said most likely Brazil, just because it's like the biggest country in South America. So it'll be cool to see. But I don't know how I would feel from like a player standpoint and a team standpoint. It's a lot more to figure out. But I get it from a business standpoint for sure, because Germany has a large English speaking population. It used to have some sort of football league too. So there is like a set fan base kind of like I'm sure there are people that watch the NFL over there. So I think it's a good market to get into. And I totally get it from a business standpoint. But again, I don't know what your thoughts are, but like if I was a player, the last thing I want to do is give up a home game and go play in Brazil. It's just, I don't know. It's a lot to figure out.
I absolutely agree with everything you're saying. And we talk about it all the time, Pat. Everything comes back to money, right? No matter what league it is, no matter what sport, even outside of sports, but we like to stick to our sports. We like to stay in our lane. But it all comes back to money. They're looking to make more
Mhm.
money. And it is weird. You bring up the logistics, and I think about a 25-man soccer team or a 15-man basketball team traveling. Not that bad. You got 25 players, you got some coaches, strength, assistants. Maybe you get up to 50 people.
Yeah, it's
NBA,
manageable.
you probably get up to 35, 40 people. But then an NFL roster with 52, 53, you got 15 coaches, you got 15 this, you got 15. You're flying 100 people around the globe for one of these games, man. The
Yep.
logistics would absolutely be tough. I
And on
don't
two different teams too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, talking about some of these countries, Germany, I like the idea of it. I always remember Sebastian Vollmer, the big 6'9" left and right tackle for the Pats, was
Mhm.
German. And he used to joke, I'm the second most famous footballer in Germany because Giselle Bundchen is half German. She's German and Brazilian. So Tom Brady is by far the most popular football player in Germany. And he said, even though I'm German, everyone there has a Brady jersey. But then comes Sebastian Vollmer. So I think that, like you said, there used to be a football league there, large English speaking population. I think it could be fun. I mean, where do they go? Do they go to Signal Iduna Park and play? Where Borussia Dortmund does and have 80,000 fans? Do they do it in Bayern Munich Stadium? I don't know what the plan is. I don't know how it would work. It's weird to me to try to get 60 to 80,000 people in an arena in Germany to watch American football. Like,
It
it's just
is, and
weird.
and another thing, like you mentioned them playing in soccer stadiums. Like if I'm Bayern Munich or Dortmund, like do I want a bunch of football players like tearing up the pitch? Because the soccer players, like their cleats and the way they play the game doesn't tear up the grass like a football game would. Like these guys diving into the grass, if it's wet, like they could destroy that field, and they take so much pride in those. That could be another thing. Just a little
300
point.
pound men destroying each other, like where it's normally 150-pound guys moving light as can be. Like
Yeah,
that's
moving
a big
gracefully
change.
across the grass. Yeah, it could be different. I don't know. Just from their standpoint, they might want some money to be able to do that.
Mm. Yeah, and then I like the Brazil idea. I like that, they've talked about Mexico City plenty of times. I think Mexico City would be a lot of fun, but I don't like the London games. I don't like when the Jaguars and Colts go to play in London because I wake up on Sunday and there's a game starting at 8:30 in the morning. I don't like it. I don't want to have to watch, you know, a game in Germany at a weird time or, wherever
Yeah,
else. It's
I always get the panic of setting my fantasy lineup. Like it's happened in
yes.
years where they're like, I remember one year I had McCaffrey, and luckily, like he's always in my lineup. But I woke up at like 10:30, and the game already started. And I was like, what if I had like another player I wanted to sub
Mhm.
in, just another position or something? It's like that game already started, and I'm SOL. So there were other people in my league who had that happen where they couldn't sub anyone in. So from a fantasy standpoint, it's a nightmare too.
Yeah, that year that the Jags were wicked nice and had the crazy defense and got to the AFC Championship game, Blake Bortles was my backup quarterback, and I woke up and I was like, "Why is Blake Bortles already playing, dude?" And then I see the Jags are playing in London. I'm like, "What is going on, man?" It's weird. The logistics don't make too much sense, but it's all about money and representation and getting more fans. And the hope is when your team lands in Munich, that 60,000 people from Munich follow the Patriots on Instagram and Twitter and interact and buy jerseys and become fans. That's the
Mhm.
goal, right? That's why Manchester City plays a preseason game in New York City because they want Americans to watch them. And so, yeah, the NFL is trying to expand their brand and get worldwide. It doesn't surprise me, but I still don't know how to feel about it. I still don't.
Yeah, no, it does make sense from a business standpoint. You got to invest in yourself now. They'll get more revenue later down the road, I'm sure. Because I'm sure even even if it doesn't work out to like the fullest extent, they still will build. They will build some sort of fan base
Mm.
there. It'll work to some degree, I think.
I was watching Get Up, which has turned into my favorite show on ESPN, hosted by Mike Greenberg, and just has all the best panelists on it. But they were talking about who's going to win, because they were talking about some of the trades that happened in like a 2026 first round pick got traded, and they're like, who's going to win the 2026 NFL championship, the Super Bowl? And Dan Graziano said it was going to be like the London Jaguars or something. He's like, I think they're going to move over. I think Trevor Lawrence, but who knows? There might be an NFL team in another country within the next decade, within the next 6 or 7 years. It would not surprise me at all. It's going to be really interesting to follow and see how it
One
works
of
out.
one of my good buddies is a Chargers fan, and I remember he was freaking out because there were talks of them like relocating to London. I don't think it'll happen. Like it might have just been rumors, but like he saw a headline and he was like, "Oh my god, no," because he already didn't want the relocation to LA, and that's a disaster with the Rams there too. And they have no fans. They have like 8 fans at their games, and he was like, "If we move to London, I'm gonna be so mad."
Bro, how can you put
Which I don't blame
another
him.
stadium in London? We got Chelsea Stadium, we got Arsenal Stadium, we got Tottenham Stadium. Like the list goes on and on. Like I
I don't
don't
think
how
there's
do you
any room left. I don't. I don't get it.
that would be nuts. That'd be nuts. All right, everybody. So, as promised, we got our resident Jets expert in here, Connor Howe from the All the Balls Sports Podcast. Go check them out. Any streaming platform on Instagram. Check out All the Balls Sports. Connor, thank you for joining us, man. But we got to have you on here to talk about this Darnold trade, brother. 3 picks. Sam Darnold to the Panthers for a second, a fourth, and a sixth over the next 2 years, right? Connor, let me just get your reaction, man. Dive in. How we feeling?
I feel good. I'm not gonna lie to you. Kind of happened. When I saw the trade with San Francisco when they moved up to 3 from Miami, I was like, oh geez, you know that means they offered that haul to New York and they said they're not going to take it. So that means they're taking a quarterback. So that means Darnold. You get a 2 in the second for next year, and I think that's about as good as value as you're going to get in April for Darnold. Moments before the I didn't like the idea of trading him on draft night, and all right. So obviously this means the Jets are most likely going, but I do want to discuss Sam Darnold a little bit because, as we know, he was drafted years ago, number 3 overall. The Jets move up from 6 to 3. They give up 3 second-round picks to the Indianapolis Colts, and Sam Darnold right busted. He was. I don't like this. Is clearly blame is on both sides. Blame is clearly on both sides. So I want to give him like credit, and I want because he was extremely. I said this last time I was with you guys. He was extremely professional, just beyond it to a T. You could talk about this past year where the team was 0-12, 0-13. They're asking Sam if Trevor Lawrence is going to be there next year. Like that's not Sam is not even be close to worried about that, and he should be reacting. I mean, he could have blew up on the media, but he just professional as hell, 23-year-old kid. But I mean, this starts the clock back for the Jets. I like where this is going for the Jets, but I feel a little bit on both sides at this point.
I feel for Sam Darnold, man. I really do. And I think
that's a tough environment.
And it's an opportunity to restart now. He's only 23 years old. He has had the worst skill position players in the league for the past, I can't even say the past couple of years, his entire career. He has had the 32nd best set of skill position players. And now he's going to go to a coach that's innovative and has turned every program around that he's ever been to, from Temple to Baylor, now to the Carolina Panthers. I'm excited for it. But Connor, I texted you about this, and your first response was, I'm ready to buy my Zach Wilson jersey. Like, it's in the mail, man. And I sent you a video this morning. Adam Schefter said, I texted Zach Wilson already and said, welcome to New York. Like this is happening. So how do we feel about Zach Wilson, man? How do we feel? BYU.
I slept on it because at first I was like, yeah, man, I know who our quarterback's going to be. It's awesome. But I slept on it. I woke up this morning. I watched some people react to it, not to get their opinion, but I just wanted to hear what they had to say from a non-Jets fan. And so my feeling on Zach Wilson is like, he's good. Don't get me wrong. I've seen the tape. I watched him play last year, including his last game, UCF in that bowl game. Phenomenal player. The talent disparity kind of scares me a little bit. The comparison, Justin Fields, he was kind of off and on. I'm a big Ohio State guy. Yeah, I think they're so close. I'm not sold yet. I'm really not sold on Wilson. I do believe he can be the guy. I have tremendous faith in Joe Douglas. I think Douglas is doing a great job. I think this was a huge win for him. Getting a 2 for Sam was something we needed. But Zach Wilson, we're just going to have to see how it plays out. Like, are the Jets going to protect him? Are they going to get like, is Corey Davis going to be a true number one? Is the defense going to hold up, or is Zach Wilson going to need 30 points to win a football game? And it's so weird because someone said it perfectly on a show last night. It was Zach Wilson's probably stealing in rookie year is what Herbert did last year, which is probably 4-12, a 5-11 team, but he won rookie of the year. Great, amazing. We all know Zach Wilson can get there because Trevor Lawrence is in the same draft. And so if that's his ceiling and he doesn't, let's say he doesn't hit that ceiling, let's say he's 4-12 Jets. We're right back in the top 5. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I understand we got 2 1s and 2 2s next year, but what are we doing here? How is Zach Wilson going to succeed? That's the question I have. We're just going to see how the draft goes, honestly.
Yeah, and my thing with the Jets is like, you guys, I said it a couple of weeks ago, like, you guys might be playing in the toughest division in football now too for a few years here.
Absolutely. You look at Miami. I understand they traded from 3 to 6. They're buying into Tua, obviously, but you have Brian Flores, very talented coach. You have skill pieces that are way better than the Jets are in Devontae Parker and Will Fuller and Myles Gaskin. Tight end position, Mike Gesicki. You have a defense in Miami better than the Jets.
And a million draft picks.
Division. So you still have Buffalo who's ahead of us. You have New England who went to the piggy bank, spent all their money on free agents.
Yep.
So like I don't know what's gonna happen. Like we have to wait for Mike to flail out, or you have to hope to God that New England doesn't get a QB this year so that they cap out at 9 wins.
And that's the big thing, because now the Patriots have by far the worst quarterback in the division, right? And they have by far the worst quarterback plan for the next 10 years. There's Josh Allen, there's 10-6 Tua, and there's a number 2 overall draft pick. So Pats are going to need to figure that out, but it sounds like you're not quite as sold on Zach Wilson as you want to be, Connor.
I don't. I just think and then also part of that, it's like it's so hard to hit on a QB in these drafts, and we all know, as soon as you see a guy who's top 4, top 5, all the teams are scrambling up quarterback, trade whatever it takes to get in there. That was us 3 years ago, trading to get into Sam Darnold, the whole thing. You look at that draft, 5 guys like this draft, five guys in the first round. Let's 3 years later, see how it played out. Baker, who's probably borderline a hit, depending who you ask. He did go through 3 head coaches. Sam, miss. John, miss. Josh Allen, Lamar, hit. So you got 3 out of 5 right there. Like,
it's tough, man.
Yeah, it really depends. Like,
what was that?
I was just saying, it really depends. Like, you can look back through all the drafts, like all the QB lists and all the people that were taken that slipped in the draft. And then you got the guys who were like taken way ahead. Like I saw one that was like Christian Ponder. You had like Blaine Gabbert, and these guys were taken in the top 10. And then you just look at where they are now. It's like, it's so hard to pick a quarterback in the draft in this day and age. It's impossible to see how anyone's going to pan out. Like, you had Trubisky being taken over, who was Deshaun Watson
and Pat Mahomes.
And Pat Mahomes. It's like, it's just impossible to tell who you're going to end up with.
I think the adage that I've heard before that is always going to stick is for every Peyton Manning, there's going to be a Ryan Leaf. It happens every single draft. Multiple
Mhm.
guys go in the top 10 and half hit. Connor went through some, you went through some every single time. It's like half. So it's interesting to see. But Connor, what's the ceiling for the Jets this year? What's the ceiling? Now remember, we got a 17 game regular season. So get the record right. Remember that there's going to be an extra loss in the loss column.
An extra. We brought him on just to poke fun.
I have to do this to Connor every time I talk to him. It's bad.
That was good. What's this? That's I think the ceiling. Okay, so you get those Corey Davis get 1,000 yards. You need a running back. I don't even know. Like P. Ryan is not. They haven't signed back Ty Johnson, who's a waiver wire pick. 12. Like this is what we're dealing with the Jets. In your second, Jamison Crowder. I like Mims. I like that, but he hasn't shown anything yet. And that defense is not great. Carl Lawson's a great addition next to Quinnen Williams, but I mean, I know who the Jets cornerbacks are, like secondary. Do you guys know? As just curious.
Nope.
Definitely not.
Okay, so yeah, that should tell you.
Is Buster Screen still there?
Actually, 6th round pick from 2 years ago, Cagnon, Austin.
You're cutting out a little bit, so I couldn't hear you quite all the way, but I'm understanding that the Jets have absolutely nothing going on in the secondary. I do understand that. And I think that's part of because Adam Gase is one of the best hitmen in NFL history. I really think he is. He ruined a lot
He
of
did a
careers.
number on you guys.
It was an inside job with Adam Gase, that's for sure. He went in and hit self-destruct.
I mean, yeah, Gase's departure from Miami, like the Jets are following very closely. Great hill for draft another compile draft assets, hire a new coach with this team from ground level one. And they did a really good job because they hit on the coach. Huge thing. It's like second most important thing besides hitting on the quarterback. I like Robert Saleh. We'll see how he can coach, as a defensive-minded individual. I'm really excited, honestly. I thought he would get more free agents for us, but, I think Corey Davis and Carl Lawson are fine. To answer the question in the beginning, I think this team caps out at like 6 wins, like 6-11. Like, in my honest opinion, they probably get 4 to 5 wins. I just like this division is too tough. I understand, like, even if Patriots start Cam Newton at quarterback, that defense is drastically better than anything we have to offer. Our best player in the secondary is Marcus May. Safe for the joke. Let's on Austin.
Connor, unfortunately, you're cutting in and out again, man. So we didn't quite get all of it. But before we let you go, I just got to ask one more question. What does Zach Wilson have to do very quickly for you to buy a jersey? Like, what does Zach Wilson have to do?
Man, you don't have to do much.
He has to be the quarterback.
Just show fun, man. I bought because I'm a sucker for it. I bought a Darnold jersey, week 2. Like I was ready to anoint him, and yeah, we know how that went.
All right, man. So it sounds like it could be coming quick. Connor, thanks for hopping on for a couple to talk about that trade, man. And I know I said it when you hop on, but everyone go check out All the Balls. Great podcast. I can't wait to listen to this week's episode so that I can hear the full Darnold rant. I'm sure it's going to be a lot longer than the time we gave you. I'm excited to listen to it.
Hopefully they give me a good 5 minutes. But it's going to be on Facebook or Instagram or Spotify, all that shit afterwards. We're gonna be recording Thursday at 8:30 if you guys want to check this out live. Otherwise, we'll come out on Spotify the day after.
All right, word, man. We appreciate you coming on.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks, Connor. Sorry for any technical difficulties we had there with our boy Connor Howe, but always fun to have him on to talk Jets. I hope I see him with a Zach Wilson jersey soon. Last time I was at his house in his basement, man, there was a Darnold jersey on the wall, and I was like, that's some commitment, bro. Like, that's some commitment. I understand trusting your rookie quarterback, but whew.
Yeah, it
But
did not work out the way it was planned.
no, it did not. But Pat, we got to move on to a little basketball. A couple more things for us to talk about there, even though we did a bunch in the headlines. First, obviously, Pat, Final Four, man. You know, Baylor Houston wasn't much of a game. Baylor dominated the entire game, so we know to touch on it. UCLA, the second 11 seed to ever get to the Final Four. The first time a first four-in team has ever gotten to the Final Four. And man, did they put up a fight against Gonzaga. This game was neck and neck the entire game. It was fantastic to watch. Best game of the tournament by far, in my opinion. I don't even think it's close. One of the best Final Four games ever. But Pat, you know, Timmy, foul trouble, in and out of the game, draws that huge charge at the end. And then, you know, little layup miss put back in by UCLA to tie it at 90. Jalen Suggs, man. Like 3 seconds left, steps over half court, banks in, runs over the table, hops up on the scorer's table, like saying, I've always wanted to be like D Wade or Kobe up on the scorer's table. What a phenomenal ending to a game. What were you thinking watching that, man, or seeing the highlights? That was incredible.
It with Suggs, like right when you need your best player to do something special, he goes and does it. And that's what separates the good from the great, even in college. It's like he's going to be remembered for that shot forever, regardless of what he does in the NBA. I wish him all success. I hope he does well in the NBA. We know that he'll get drafted high. He'll be on his way to the NBA to some team that needs a guard. But I felt so bad for UCLA. I texted you guys. I was like, I wanted UCLA to win so bad, especially the way they were playing. I mean, they played like true champions. They were a team that really deserved to be in the championship game the way that they were playing. I don't know that they would have beaten Baylor had it gotten to that point anyways. And we saw that with Gonzaga. I mean, that UCLA Gonzaga game was draining. Both teams, I think it just took everything out of them. And how can you blame them? What was it, 93-90? Such a high scoring game, high pace.
Overtime.
Yeah, overtime. It's like that's so much just to play through, and you got to play another game like a day or two later. It's so much to bear. And UCLA played amazing. All props to them. It sucks to see a team lose like that, an 11 seed no less, and like you said, a play-in team. To see a team play in the first four go on to make it all the way to the championship game. And did they play? Was it Wichita State in that play-in game?
No, they played Michigan State, who I had going
Michigan
like
State.
all the way to like the
Yeah.
Sweet 16, and UCLA
Yeah, so a team
did what I thought Michigan State was gonna do.
Yeah, Michigan State was a great looking team. I definitely didn't have UCLA even winning the play-in game. So I think they exceeded pretty much everyone's expectations, except for like some brackets you saw at the top of the leaderboard towards the end, it's those people who are like, it's like me with UNC. I always make a UNC bracket where they win. Someone probably always makes a UCLA bracket. I'm sure it's the same thing, regardless of what seed they are. But UCLA exceeded all expectations, and I wish them all success. I hope they're back next year. It was great to see them play like that.
Without a doubt. And I got two takeaways from that game. One is that Tiger Campbell, the point guard for UCLA, he's a freshman, the dude with the big old hair. Dude, he was like in the 40s or 50s when it came to recruits this year in the ESPN Top 100. And I've been following him for a little while because I like to follow a bunch of the top guys. I like to keep an eye on them for us, of course. But dude, Tiger Campbell's stock was just through the roof as this tournament went on, and especially in that Final Four game. He was just playing fantastic, especially when you're matching up with Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs is the first ever top 10 recruit in Gonzaga history. Jalen Suggs is the first freshman to put up 15, 5, and 5 in the last 11 years in the Final Four. Like, he was balling out. So I just want to shout out Tiger Campbell. All props to him and how he played, and just absolute warrior mentality. Then, Pat, my second takeaway is I've actually been saying this for I wouldn't say a couple months, maybe a month and a half. Jalen Suggs is better than Cade Cunningham. Jalen Suggs is the first pick in the draft. Cade Cunningham is not the first pick in the draft. Jalen Suggs does absolutely everything on offense, locks in on defense, 6'4", 6'5", big physical point guard, just absolute control all the time, never looks frazzled, had a couple bad turnovers here and there, but man, any team that gets Jalen Suggs on their roster, like, is just going to be blown away by this kid. I can't wait to see him in the NBA. Best player in college basketball, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's got the personality and the attitude that you look for and the heart. Like even in the championship game, like he was the one who on the court was willing Gonzaga back into that game somewhat in the first half. Like he was the guy that went on the floor. He was the one who was helping to get Baylor into foul trouble, a little bit of foul trouble. He was the one getting to the free throw line. Like he was just playing with the most heart out of anyone on that team. And I think just based on that, even without all the skills he has, like that makes your stock rise exponentially.
Absolutely. And Pat, that championship game that we've mentioned a couple times, it wasn't a good game. Unfortunately,
no, it wasn't fun. Unfortunately,
Baylor was up 10 to 20 points the entire game. They end up winning by 16. Shout out the Baylor Bears, man. This is the first championship in the history of the men's program there. The women's program has had 4, Brittany Griner and some of the other greats to come through there. But this is the first for the men's team. And like we talked about it earlier, when you're the first at something at your school, your program, this to me legitimizes Baylor men's basketball as a top program. Like,
definitely.
You have to win a championship to be legit. Gonzaga is not a legit top tier program. Duke, UNC, Kansas, Kentucky, you have to win. You have to win, and this is what gets Baylor those top recruits. Baylor, because of this run, now has a top 10 pick in the draft, Mitchell. You know what I mean? Like, this legitimizes them. This means better recruits are coming there. This means they're going to be running the Pac-12. So shout out to Baylor. I'm excited for them. The team was bigger. The team was more physical. The team ran better. The team shot better. They were the best. They dominated the entire game. I'm looking forward to seeing where some of these players go and where this Baylor program continues to progress, because last year there wasn't a tournament and they would have been one of the top teams. So they've been waiting for this. They felt like they were ready, and shout out Baylor, man, because you're a top basketball program now. You've taken that next step, the Villanova step, the UNC step. You've done it, man. So shout out Baylor. Shout out Baylor for winning that game, even though it wasn't
Baylor was they were one step ahead the entire game, and Gonzaga just looked drained. Like even the announcers were saying it most of the game. They looked tired from that UCLA game. You could see the fatigue. They just were not as in it as they needed to be with dogs like Baylor. Like Baylor was just, they looked so physical, just outplayed them in every facet of the game. And it again raises that question, like, can you trust Gonzaga in those big moments? And that's part of the reason I don't, is because they were 30-0, but they're playing not the best teams in the country all year.
St.
Like they
Mary's.
they had never seen a team like Baylor all season. And that was probably the most physical team they've played, best all around skill, maybe besides UCLA, as hot as they were. But Baylor, just the way they played, it was unbelievable. And Gonzaga had never seen that type of play before this season. You could tell just in the look in their eyes, they weren't ready for it after the UCLA game. I think it would have been a closer game if they hadn't gone to OT in such a draining game with UCLA, but I still think Baylor would have won. I mean, I picked Baylor in my bracket that did well. I thought Baylor looked the best all tournament. They were clearly the team of destiny, and I could have seen it coming. And I don't know. I mean, if you're a Gonzaga fan, they played well. They played their hearts out. Jalen Suggs is awesome, but it wasn't all there. I don't think that it's going to be for a while. And the head coach really, I don't think Mark Few made any adjustments that entire game. Like he was kind of just rolling out the same guys. I didn't see them make any adjustments to try and match Baylor. They had the zone defense going, which didn't work at all. Like they were playing that most of the game, and Baylor just dominated. That guy Teague on Baylor at one point was just splashing. I mean, I think Charles Barkley said Baylor shot like 60% from 3 in the first half. I don't know what the second half numbers were, but it didn't slow down. They kept scoring, and Baylor just looked too good against the zone. And I don't think that Gonzaga made enough adjustments. And maybe that was part of the fatigue. Maybe the coach knew that, and he knew they couldn't play man. They would have been even more drained. I don't know. Besides that, there were a few places they could have they could have done better. And again, who am I to say? I'm not a head coach. I'm armchair quarterbacking, as we like to do.
But you make great points, Pat, because when you have a team like Gonzaga that has a 7-man rotation, and then you have a team like Baylor that has a 9 to 10-man rotation, which team's going to be more fresh? You
Yeah.
know, and it is important to rotate like that. Like Gonzaga fans should be frustrated with Mark Few for not getting more guys involved. You know, even earlier in the tournament, you don't need to play all these guys heavy minutes when you win games by 15. But man, this looked like a JV versus varsity. This looks like, you know, you're on the varsity team and the JV team comes into scrimmage and you go up 10 to 12 and then just hold that all game because you don't have to try. You're just like, all right, no, I'm gonna leave you over there, my 10 to 12 point lead. But Pat, I'm gonna be on here and give a challenge to Gonzaga. I want them to do what UConn women's recently did. UConn women's recently moved from like the A10 or whatever, you know, BS conference they were in to the Big East. So they started playing bigger and better teams. I want to challenge Gonzaga to move to the Pac-12. Play against Oregon, play against UCLA, play against all these big teams on the West Coast. Stop playing against nobody. You know what happens when you join a bigger conference? You get more recruits. You get more TV money. You get more sponsorships. It's all good stuff. You won't be 30-0. I can guarantee you that because you lose games to teams like UCLA. But man, join a better conference. Quit being in this weak nobody conference. Who cares if you win everything every single year in a row? It's not as fun to watch. I think that Gonzaga needs to challenge themselves. I think they need to challenge their program and reset because they can get to the Final Four and Elite Eight every year if they want. If you never win, who cares? Who cares? Think anyone remembers Kelly Olynyk's Gonzaga teams? No. Kyle Wiltshire's? No. It's not what happens, man. You need to win, move to a bigger, better conference. That's my challenge for Gonzaga, for, you know, all the Gonzaga execs and board members that listen to this podcast. I'm challenging all of you
you know
individually.
I'm in agreement, Chandler.
I'm going to call them out name by name.
You know I'm in agreement. They got to get that strength of schedule up. They got to play better teams throughout the year. And regardless, if you lose 6 games, I think you earn the respect of the entire nation because you're playing harder teams all year. And I don't think your ranking changes much. You're still going to be top 3, even if you lose 6 games, because you're playing some of the best teams in the country.
And you're going to get some big wins that you've never gotten before. Fun fact about Baylor, this was their first ever win against the number 1 ranked team in the country. Gonzaga was still the AP number 1. Baylor was 0-8 against number 1s. First ever win.
Wow.
Shout out Baylor, man. Now, Pat, we got to get on to a basketball program that I don't want to talk about, but, you know, I guess we have to because it's sort of significant, you know, even though I got my Duke hat on over here. UNC, Pat, your boy Roy Williams, hanging up the shoes, man. Always rocking those fresh Jordans. He's hanging up the J's, man.
Yeah.
And I guess we should.
But even you gotta give respect to Roy Williams, and you gotta give credit where credit's due. 18 years as head coach as UNC, and let me just list off these accolades I got here: 5 Final Fours, and then in 4 of those trips to the Final Fours, he has 3 NCAA titles and a runner-up, that heartbreaker to Villanova, which easily could have been a 4th title.
Chris Jenkins buzzer beater, dude. Oh.
Yeah, right after Marcus Page hit that beautiful shot too. That was
double clutch lefty.
Yeah, that one stings in my heart. But also 3 ACC tournament championships and then 9-time ACC conference champions. And that's with a powerhouse like Duke as your opposition too. I mean, the ACC was one of the, for like throughout the 2000s and the 2010s, the ACC has consistently been one of the best conferences in college basketball. And for them to win 9 times in his 18-year tenure, unbelievable. 5 Final Fours as well. 3 titles alone is like just legendary. But we're going to miss Roy. He's got health problems. I think like just after the attitude that it's been for the last couple of years, team hasn't been doing as well. They haven't had as many good recruits. Roy's had health problems. I think he had like vertigo, collapsed on the sideline a couple times.
He's an old man.
Roy, it's time. Nobody blames you. Go enjoy your days by the pool. You've been paid. You are a legend of the sport. He's one of the best college coaches of all time. I'm so happy he went to UNC. I mean, he can't say enough about the guy. And you know what, for his replacement, Hubert Davis, I'm happy they kept it in the family. He's a longtime assistant coach of Roy. think 9 years now. He's been assistant coaching with Roy Williams. He used to play there under Dean Smith. I think he still holds the record for 3-point percentage, for like highest 3-point percentage shooting. So a guy who long time played at UNC, coaches at UNC already. I love the move. Obviously, we'll see how it works out. We'll see if they still attract the big names. I mean, clearly they haven't been in recent years with Roy, but the big names that we once had, Ty Lawson, Tyler Hansbrough, the Tyler Zellers, the John Hensons, the Marcus Pages. I mean, there's so many to list off. So I'm excited for UNC's future. I know it's been kind of tumultuous for the last couple of years, but I don't know, Chandler. Duke might have the upper hand. They didn't play well this year. I think Duke might have the upper hand for a few years here, but UNC will be back, and it's all credit to Roy for bringing that program where it is.
What's unfortunate, Pat, is for you and I is that like Virginia has the upper hand right now, and like Virginia Tech and like Duke and UNC are kind of falling by the wayside. Obviously, they'll be back and they're going to get recruits, and these will continue to be the two best teams in the ACC. But yeah, man, shout out Roy Williams. Obviously, I'm a Duke fan, but a lot of love and respect for Roy, as Coach K has, and the entire Duke program. And obviously, as an ambassador of Duke, I can speak for all of them personally. But man, like you said, 18 years, national championships under Dean Smith. Man, UNC's had the same two coaches for like 40 something years.
Yeah, a long
That's
time.
incredible. Dean Smith and his four corners offense all the way up to Roy Williams. And Roy's a Hall of Famer, all-timer. Shout out Roy Williams, super forward, 18 years. Hubert Davis, I love this pick, Pat. Some of the other people they were talking to, Jerry Stackhouse, who's coach at Vanderbilt, a lot of other UNC guys they kept in the fam. They talked about, they reached out to Brad Stevens. They reached out to Mark Few of Gonzaga. They reached out to Jay Wright of Villanova. And I love that they kept it in the family. And this was also Roy Williams' pick to replace him, reportedly. He said Hubert Davis. Now, I just got Hubie's Wikipedia up right here. My man, 50 years old. First of all, 6'5". I like seeing that. I like seeing a former tall player, man, being a coach. I don't like seeing these little dudes in this huddle with all these big guys looking like he shouldn't belong. Hubie belongs here. Now, North Carolina for 4 years. 20th pick overall in the 92 draft. He played 12 years in the NBA, averaging like 8-2-2. So good, solid rotation guy for 12 years. Played for a bunch of different teams, and then went back assistant coach for 9 years. This is a great career. This is a guy that has been around. This is a guy that can get his players to championships. This is a guy that can get his players to the pros. What do people want to go to Duke and UNC for? They want to go for that 1-2 year stint, win a lot of games, win the ACC tourney, win a championship, and get a high draft pick. No one there's like 5 programs that put players into the pros like UNC does. Like it's very limited. So the recruiting power is there, man. The mystique, the aura, the Michael Jordan, it's all there. I'm excited for Hubie Davis, man. And I hope that he's successful, because nothing's better than seeing a 1-point Duke UNC game. And that's all I ever want. I want good competitive games, and I want a Duke UNC matchup in the tourney, Pat. It's never happened. Never once. So hopefully someday Hubie and Coach K can get there. Now this just scares me thinking, Coach K's on the way, man. He's in his 70s. He's like 74 or something. Coach
he
K
might be looking to get out soon after this season too. If there's any more like that, he might be with Roy.
Yeah, man, he was petty this year. I'll tell you. Coach K had a bit of an attitude problem this year. So, but hey, man, shout out Hubert Davis, shout out Roy Williams, Hall of Famer. It's nice when active guys are already in the Hall of Fame, like Roy Williams. There isn't a discussion. He's already a Hall of Famer, which is great, So
absolutely.
Shout out Roy Williams, man, and shout out that UNC program getting back on track, hopefully. All right, Pat, not as many listener questions this week, but we still got time to answer a couple. Got to get them in. So, Pat, first one from my boy Brett. Is Rob Williams going to carry the Celtics to the promised land? Now, I don't think this means this season. I think this is just kind of, is he a key contributor upcoming? And man, he has the potential to be the third best player on this team with how he's been playing. He's had some games like 20 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, bunch of blocks, man. This kid, if he can figure it out, he's only like 23, 24. If he can figure it out, Rob Williams is the Celtics starting center. and he's a championship caliber starting center if the trajectory continues to go where it's going.
Well, we can't seem to trade for a big, and Danny Ainge doesn't seem to want to sign any big name big. So I think he might have to be just for the sake of, he might have to be the big of the future. But I think with the right development under Brad Stevens, I think he can get there. I don't think he'll ever be, a superstar, but I think in terms of what the Celtics need for the way the team is structured, I would say that I think he has the potential to be. I'm not totally sold at the moment, but I would say we'll see over the next year or two where his development heads.
I don't know why he couldn't be Bam Adebayo of last year. Like Bam's going to keep getting better and Bam's going to be an all-star. And he was, but there's a lot of Bam in his game, man. He's a great playmaker too. I'm excited to see it. Now, Pat, this is from Jimmy McQuaid, man. Got a great question from him last week too. Jimmy wants to know, should college football move to an 8-team playoff bracket? I think 1000% yes. I think it's ridiculous to only say that 4 teams have a chance to compete for the championship, that you have to go undefeated, that you have to play in a major conference. Like, I think it absolutely should be 8. And I wouldn't be mad if it was 16.
I agree. I actually really like that proposition because I never got the 4-team thing anyways. I never really understood it. And I don't think 4 is enough. And if you're the NCAA, I mean, they seem so money hungry as it is. Like, why wouldn't you go for an 8-team tournament? I think it'd be cool to see, just even if it's going to be Alabama in the freaking championship game every time. You never know what the other team might be. And I'm just kidding. Alabama might get beat, but in an 8-game format, I think that would be exciting. I would love that. That's actually a great idea.
Yeah. And I don't think it is cause for like crazy upsets or anything. Like when you look at March Madness, you have the first and the 64th best team playing, what's going to happen. If you have the first and 8th, that's upset city potential, man. Like you'd be a lot more upsets. I think it'd be fun to see. And Pat, last listener question, only doing a couple today. It's from our girl, Meg Ahern back at Westfield, the voice, man. Shout out Meg. Hope everything's going well. She wants to know, Pat, chicken tenders or chicken nuggets?
I guess it depends where you get them. I think tenders though, because even tenders, like they can almost be considered boneless wings too. Like, wings over our favorite spot as Westfield State students. Like that's the place to get food from. I would say tenders. I think like the only nuggets I really eat are like the Purdue nuggets that I get like frozen and I cook them up in an air fryer, and like those are okay. But I would say tenders all the way. I think that's an easy one for me.
Yeah, I don't want to insult anyone here, but I think that at a certain age you graduate from
nuggets,
chicken nuggets to chicken tenders, right? Like
maybe Meg hasn't. I don't know. Maybe Meg hasn't, but I'm a tender guy.
And that's the thing. Like I feel like chicken nuggets are great for kids, man, but at a certain point, you need more. You need bigger, thicker pieces, dude. And
no doubt.
Like, yeah, man. If I'm going frozen, I'm going chicken tenders. If I'm going out and getting a basket, I want chicken tenders and fries. Like if I'm going, like you said, boneless wings, those are basically tenders too. I'm going tenders, man. I'm going tenders.
And if we're talking breading too, just to get really into it, like nuggets usually have that thin breading, whether it's even like a McDonald's McNugget or like a Purdue one. But if you get a tender, like it's usually crispy and like thicker breading, which I like more. So that's just another reason I would go tender.
Dude, I'm totally with you. These are the important questions, Pat.
These are the questions we need to be asking.
And that's when people are going to have to let us know what they think. But Pat, we got to wrap up the show soon, so we're going to move on to what we've learned. But as always, we got to get a quick word from Book Thinkers. So you guys know, but if you read personal development books, you guys got to check out Book Thinkers. This is a company that's helping you every single day to, they're dedicated to helping you achieve more, live better, and it's all through books. They're going to help you connect with new books, new mentors. The list goes on. You're going to achieve more. You're going to live better. So please type in Book Thinkers on Instagram. Go check them out. They're up over 118,000 followers now. Search bookthinkers.com. Check out their podcast that drops every week. Check out the IG for content all day, every day, especially if you're into personal development and nonfiction books. But now, Pat, back to what we've learned. And I'm excited for yours, Pat. So why don't you tell me what you learned this week?
So if you didn't catch any MLB this week, if any of you didn't watch any, you didn't hear about it on ESPN, the Reds and the Cardinals had a benches clearing brawl. They called it a brawl. I was like, where's the brawl? Like there was almost no fighting. There was like a shove. But anyways, so a couple days prior, Nick Castellanos on the Reds hit a home run, and he showboated, as it's like almost a custom now, and it's exciting to see. And people on the Cardinals didn't like that. And then you fast forward to a couple days later, first pitch of Nick Castellanos at bat, Cardinals pitcher drills him with a fastball. It was coming like upper too, which is when the players get kind of dicey about it. So he did a good job protecting himself. I think it hit him like right in the arm, and they had like an elbow guard anyways. But so they clearly, maybe not clearly, it looked like they were trying to pitch at him. They're really good at hiding it, but I think those players know. So that happened. And then you fast forward to later in the game. Nick Castellanos was on third. Wild throw into the outfield. Castellanos scores. He slides into home. There's a little pushing at the plate. Nick Castellanos gets up. He's pumped up. He just scored on a wild throw. I would be pumped up. I just scored on a slide into home. Screams in the pitcher's face, pumps his arms. Yeah, he flexed. Yeah. And pitcher did not like that. Yadier Molina definitely did not like that. And Yadier he's a legend of the game. He's not a guy you want to mess with. He looks pretty serious, but the reaction to this has been unbelievable. Nick Castellanos got a 2-game suspension for flexing, for instigating the benches clearing. It's like, I'm so not okay with this. Like, if you're baseball and if you're Rob Manfred, like, don't you want people to watch? And in that case, don't you want the excitement? Like, baseball needs more excitement. And I mentioned this earlier in the episode. They need more excitement. They need more guys like Nick Castellanos. So that's what I've learned, is that you can't punish these guys like that, because it's going to make players not want to show any emotion. Like, do you want robots just playing baseball, or do you want like people with personality? You want these young guys coming up. Like, if you want a younger crowd to get into baseball, which is their whole thing, trying to speed up the game, get more a younger generation into the game rather than the old heads who are still watching religiously, you can't react and punish the guy like that. It's just unbelievable. Like, it'd be understandable if he's throwing punches, but he didn't even instigate it. He literally did that, walked away, and then got pushed from behind. So he wasn't even the one that instigated like the fighting. Like, he didn't initiate any contact. And for him to get the 2-game suspension, it honestly blew my mind. And like, it's not the direction that the MLB needs to head in. Like, if that happens again, I would just love to see no punishment whatsoever, unless people are throwing punches, which, like, in that case, yeah, okay, someone's got to get suspended. You can't have that. But in terms of emotion, like, what do what kind of behavior does that promote? It's unbelievable the way they reacted.
Rob Manfred should get suspended for 2 days.
Yeah, give him a 2-game
without
suspension.
pay.
Yeah, and they had some new guy in there, some new guy to the role who's like doling out the punishments, almost like a vice principal. I don't know if he was trying to prove a point by being new. I don't know, but I couldn't agree with it, and I can't imagine many baseball fans under 30 agree with it either.
I was thinking that too, Pat. I'm like, sitting here as 2 young baseball fans, man. Like, you're just not going to let the players be excited. You're not going to let the players be happy when they score.
Yeah.
Like, a diving play at the plate where you're diving head first trying to get home, and you can't be excited when you get up. It's pathetic. I couldn't agree with you more. I think you did a really great job.
After you just got thrown at earlier in the game too. It's like, and then people get mad at the showboating on home runs. It's like, come on. It's like, let people want to see the bat flips. People want to see the slow trot to first. Like, it's just, it's unbelievable to me.
And we're not going to suspend the pitcher that intentionally throws 95 at a guy's shoulder and head, right?
No, because it's like inconclusive, right? No, it's ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Shout out Nick Castellanos. We need more of you. We need more of Bryce Harper. We need more of Fernando Tatis, man. We need more of those guys bringing energy to baseball. I'm all for it. Pat, what I learned this week, man. So this is mostly, I haven't even finished it because it's 3.5 hours, but I am just absolutely blown away by this Joe Rogan and Francis Ngannou podcast. I knew a bit about Francis Ngannou and all of the unbelievable things he has gone through in his life, but listening to him detail his 14-month journey from Cameroon to France, being out in the middle of oceans on rafts, getting pulled out of the water by the Moroccan Coast Guard and army, and just the absolute trials and tribulations and beatings that this man took to try to get to a better life. what I learned is just the utmost respect for Ngannou. And I already had 100% respect for him. I love the guy, but man, it is through the roof learning what he went through as a 24, 25-year-old, only having been boxing for so long. And man, what does he do before he even gets famous? He's building gyms and sending gym equipment back to Cameroon so the kids can lift. And he's just such a great guy. He goes back to the sand mine that he used to, work out as a 10-year-old boy, shoveling sand all day in the trucks. This dude is just one of the best people on the planet. We talk about him, the baddest dude on the planet, the scariest dude on the planet, one of the nicest,
He's
one of the
really,
most gentle, one of the most, English is like his fourth language, and just listening to him speak and articulate, and man, unbelievable. I would recommend anyone to go listen to the Joe Rogan podcast with him. Just ultimate respect for Francis Ngannou and everything he's done, and heavyweight champion of the world, man. It's pretty incredible. Just shout out Francis Ngannou, man. That dude is next level in every aspect of his life. Every single one.
It really is funny. Like if you only watch his fights, you're like, wow, this guy is mean. And then no, you go and listen to anything he does, like any podcast he's on, Rogan, he's been on Brendan Schaub's like Food Truck Diaries. It's unbelievable. Like he's such a nice guy. He's so humble too. Like he does not have an ego whatsoever. It's crazy where he's come from. So yeah, I would definitely encourage everyone to go listen to something of his that he's been on and just listen to his story.
Yeah, man. And listening to him just talk about having to pretend to be from Mali when he's in Mali, and having to pretend to be from Nigeria or Niger, and then just a bunch of these different places, and this dramatic trip he had to take, man. And then he's sleeping on the street in France, just trying to get fights and fulfill his boxing dreams, sending money home when he can. It's unbelievable. And I said it, but they're going to make a movie about this man one day without a doubt. And he was on Andrew Schultz's podcast recently as well, on Flagrant 2. And they said, who do you want to play you in a movie? And he said, me. He said, I wouldn't even have to act. I've been there, let me play it, dude. Let me watch Francis Ngannou play himself in a movie. I would pay
the new Rocky, right?
Yeah, I would pay pay-per-view for that, man. And Pat, that wraps up episode 15, man. Another good one in the books. It's always fun doing this. We're laughing, smiling, joking around the whole time. It's nice that, even though we hate each other's teams, sometimes we can hate, commissioners together. It's always a good feeling, and stupid rulings in sports like baseball. But as always, we got to ask you guys, please like, please subscribe, please share, please rate, please review, leave a comment, whatever you can do. Help boost our algorithm, help get the word of Right Off the Bus out there. Pat and I have been slacking on getting some guests on the pod the past couple of weeks, but we're happy to have Connor on. We're gonna try to get more interesting athletes, journalists, some good interviews for you guys. So please stay tuned, keep listening. Hope you guys enjoyed the pod this week, and yeah, I enjoyed doing it. It's always fun. I'm feeling good, Pat. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, me as well. And as always, thank you, and peace. We're out of here.
You are listening to Right Off the Bus.